everyone, what's up? This is Mr. Hashtag on WEMX, We Mix, social media radio, and now it's time for Couch Chat.
Hey, good evening. What's up? What's happening, everybody? This is yours truly, Couch. And of course, I got my super duper co-host Rock with me. That's my man Howard. And also I got my man up in New Jersey, Stu, making it happen. Yep, in the house. That's what's up. Now, where's Russ? He'll be with us. If he's not with us, you will see him next week. But we're expecting Russ to show up any moment now. So, woo. So, fellas, how you doing, man? How you guys doing?
Well,
good. How you feeling, Stu? Yeah.
We really should have shotguns for this kind of work.
Hey, man, you're right about that. Look, I'm going to get right into it because something that has really gotten my attention this week, because this is the last day of the month, July. So we're going into August. So we're really starting to see campaigns really crank up. And for years, the Democratic Party has prided itself on being this like big tent coalition. But after another wave of progression primary victories, that coalition appears to be under increasing strain. And the debate is no longer just about the policies. It's about who gets to define what it means to be a Democrat. I mean, so you got like several recent Democratic primaries have reignited, I might say, in terms of tensions between the party, but it seems like this crap has been going on all year. Wait a minute. Hold the phone. Who's there? Well, I'll be. Here he is.
I don't know why it wasn't working. As soon as I tried to go out of it, it popped up.
Hey,
you guys doing, man?
Yeah, we're doing good. Right. We're doing good, man. We knew you'll pop up. So Stu, so Russ, we've gotten into it already. What I'm talking about right now, I'm talking about the primaries, and we got this thing of the Dems, the old school Dems versus the new school Dems. You know, you got this tension between the party establishment and this progressive wing that everybody's loving. Candidates supported by progressive organizations, they keep kicking ass, my man. And so you got these longtime Democratic strategists that are just questioning and just talking bad about these new guys. And the big one is James Carville. He has become the loudest voice criticizing this movement. Instead of embracing it, he's acting like Nick Saban is about NIL and all that. That's how Carville's acting right now. And he's even suggesting that parts of this progressive movement, he's saying it should be separated for the Democratic Party altogether. All right, let me calm down. Russ, I said I wasn't going to get as wild last week, but Stu said, fuck that. So, but I'm kind of stuck in between that. But the conversation now centers on whether Democrats can remain united. And this is the thing that I keep worrying about while disagreeing so fundamentally about the party's future. I'm like, we got to take care of crap right now. It's like I saw Roland talking about this whole situation with blacks in Houston and all that, not realizing that, hey, look, voting for Tallarico is going to be a good thing. But we'll talk about that later because we're trying to have a situation where Todd Blanche never gets confirmed. But we got to realize that political parties evolve. We got to also realize that new leaders emerge. This is Carville, something he's not getting. And he's got to also realize that his old school ideas are going to be challenged. But when you got these guys doing this, it becomes a problem. And it becomes larger than the focus of what we need to be putting our attention on right now. So this is just my thing, okay? This is just my thing. And I really want to know, Howard, how do you feel about this point where we're at with progressives kicking ass and these old school heads just not feeling anything? What are your thoughts on it, my brother?
Well, it's 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 not surprising.
Okay.
It's sort of to be expected. You know what? And it's not surprising that Carville, one of the chief among the consultant class, is one of the loudest voices against the DSA, because with this what you're calling the old school establishment Democrats, what they're set up as is they're a top down organization. They're a corporately sponsored top down organization. Not to say that they don't do great work and haven't done great work, or that anyone should that the Democratic Party doesn't have our interests in mind. However, the Democratic Socialists are a bottom-up grassroots organization. They're also a true party. They have meetings. They are organized. They're much better organized than the mainstream Democrats.
I believe that.
Because and that's why it's a threat to the consultant class Democratic. See, you don't hear. I don't hear. I mean, there are some politicians people who are in office who have voiced negative opinions about the electability. See, they always want to hide behind electability.
Yeah,
by the
they
electability
do.
of Democratic Socialists. But most of the pushback I've been hearing are from the consultant class, the people who these Democrats hire to do their polling and do all of that stuff. And, instead of going around and door knocking and talking to people, they do it another way. And so you're just talking about an evolution, a change of a system. And, there's nothing constant but change is hard. No one likes to change. I think this is what you're seeing is democracy in action, true democracy.
Right.
I think I'm not as concerned about it as some. You have people who are, what I get pissed off is, like you were saying, guys like Carville and all these others who see their way of doing business going away.
Yeah.
And I'm saying business because that's what they're in.
Yeah.
James Carville's a businessman.
Yeah.
He's not a public servant.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So that angers me. I don't like seeing that.
Yeah.
But right now, I see this as just a growth pain. This is necessary change that's going to happen, and I'm not as concerned as some about it splitting the party. I don't think it's going to.
I am. That is something that's something that. Well, let me put it this way. It concerns me in the fact that you started having people not voting because they're having temper tantrums. That's what concerns me. Like I brought up Tallarico. You got brothers in Texas talking about, not voting for Tallarico because of the way Jasmine Crockett was being treated, and they'll sit this one out. That's that ignorance that I want to avoid. I want people to keep their focus on the priorities that we need to focus on. And when I start hearing this kind of stuff, it bothers me because I see it all the time.
Let me just interject one thing.
All right.
The Tallarico Jasmine Crockett thing is different from the DSA mainstream Democrat split. That's a whole different situation.
Okay.
Brothers got feelings about that, about what happened down there in Texas, and they need to get out of them and go ahead and vote.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different, in my view, a whole different issue.
I can dig that. I'm just talking about the things that worry me. And that's my point. Stu, what are your thoughts on this, Stu?
So first off, it is not an actual worry. Okay? Let me get everybody to just relax, right?
Yep.
There's a bunch of stuff, right? First off, what people say, right? Not just brothers, everybody talks about the stuff and they get frustrated and they'll talk about stuff. And you can see that in polling. But if you look at the voting, brothers vote. There's no data. People said this some weeks ago. I dug in. I cannot find any real data that says that they don't go and they don't vote anyway. Those numbers are the same. We need to get them to vote more. We got to keep recruiting everybody to register to vote. But they're just upset, and that shows up in the polling, but not in the voting. So that's number one.
Okay, stop right there. Hold
Go
on.
ahead. No, hit me.
Go ahead. Yeah. Now, I want you to go back and look at those numbers. Now, when you look at those numbers, are you looking at the numbers of the percentage of people who are black that voted Democrat? Or are you looking at the percentage of blacks who are registered that turned out? See, my whole discussion has always been about black voter turnout. And that's my concern. See, once you have the brothers show up at 65%, especially in a state like Texas, then the Dems are going to win. Those numbers are there. You can see that. My concern is I want to make sure that black voter turnout is huge, that we're focused on the priority. That's my thing.
That's a separate. We need to talk about that, right? Increase voter turnout, but that's across the board.
Okay.
But framing it as a brothers don't come out to vote, or they're going to vote less, they're going to show up in fewer numbers. There's no evidence to that. That is fueled by the consultant class, who will try to create some sort of hair on fire thing, because then they get to raise more money for speaking engagements and being on TV and stuff by ginning up this fear. But there is no there. There's things we need to talk about. We need to talk about getting more people, certainly people of color, but across the board, get more people, try to find a way to get conservatives to come out and vote who wouldn't normally do that, come out, young people, get them to register to vote. It would be really nice. We're seeing some real conversation about the fact that if we can register men when they turn 18 to register for the draft automatically, we can register them to vote, right?
Right,
So
exactly.
Concentrating on, right? But this schism that's being talked about in the Democratic Party, there is no there. That is as Howard said, right? The consultant class, right? There are dudes who see that progressive Democrats don't need DCC money. They are able to, through small donors, raise the money they need. What we need to be talking about is that we can all coexist, that moderate Democrats, right? I'm down here in South Jersey, in the Pines, in Redneckville, Jersey. We have moderate Democrats, centrist Democrats. Those are the ones that you got to talk about economics and women's health and stuff that still works, right? Don't talk about the progressive stuff. Don't say free Palestine at your rally. Just don't do it, right? If you're in a progressive area, if you're in a place where it's heavy blue and the progressive really will work, right? Definitely talk about those progressive issues. But all politics are local, and we need to calm the hell down about it.
You know what, everybody, y'all need to realize what my man Stu just said. And it's something I tell my kids, I tell people all the time. If you want to have a discussion with people, you got to meet them where they're at. That's basically what Stu just said. You know, you got to realize who you're talking to and where you're at. And that's still kind of like bothers me why Carville is being such a freaking asshole. You know what I mean? And it's just like Howard just said. He's a businessman. You know what I mean? And it's still, Russ, let me ask you this, Russ. And you can look at the history of this with this particular question. I think Carville, he needs to understand why the younger Democratic voters are embracing the progressive candidates. When you say so, my man, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, when you look at economic downturns throughout history or cataclysmic conflict like the Vietnam War, those things inspire young people. The Great Depression is a great example of that. We had 50 years of progress after that, because everybody was done with Republican policies. But people forget. You get old, and then the new generations. And here's the thing. We get outspent in a lot of ways. I mean, just on candidates is one thing. But don't believe for a second that they aren't spending money to fuel discord on our side, to say both parties are the same. All the things. People who vote for Trump, they vote for Trump even after he causes them to lose their farm or ranch, they will vote for him a fourth time, even though it's unconstitutional. But young people, they aren't solidified yet. So they will choose a different path if they're struggling. And that's we really get a good groundswell because our policies help people always. Yeah. And we have a track record of that. And that's why they call us socialists and communists, is they're using the same boogeyman in reference to my previous comments that they've been using for 70, 80 years. And it works because nobody knows what communism and socialism or capitalism, they don't know what those things are. And so, it helps reduce our side's voting. But you know what? The thing that drives me the biggest is using our words, using our vocabulary. We don't have to say, end the presidency, end the Senate, end the Supreme Court. We can say, take back our government. We don't have to say the things that are going to give them logs to put on the fire, to put us on the fire pit. We got to stop fueling that. The Democratic Socialists of America are smart people. They get economics. They get what causes poverty. Stop giving Republicans fuel against us. We need each other. We need that progressive wing to pull us to the left a little so we can do the things that make a difference. But we need them to stop shooting us all in the foot when they do it. I'm very frustrated with them saying, end all prisons. Okay, come on. Nobody wants criminals just free roaming. It's not free grazing. But anyway, that's my big pet peeve with it. They're smart people. Choose your words.
I'm with you on it, but don't you think that when you look at this going, it really seems like it's just a struggle for these old cats to stay in power. I mean, Howard called it, and look, these are the things that they need to realize right now. Progressive candidates, they're going to continue to outperform because I like what they're doing. I like the policies. I like what they're talking about is what a lot of people want. So these old heads need to get it. They also need to realize that these younger voters, they're increasingly calling for the structural reforms, and they want it. These are the people that are out there on social media, and these are the people that the progressives are talking to and reaching out to. And also, like you said, Stu, they're able to get that small dollar fundraising in place, and they know how to use it to speak to those that they need to speak to. And I just think that somebody needs to pull Carver to the side and say, shut the fuck up. That's my thing right now. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. And right after that, we're coming back with my man, Howard, and his hot take.
Hey, everybody. We are live right off of 495. And before we get into Howard's hot take, Stu has something to add as it pertains to the young folks needing to be heard.
I absolutely differ. We want the young people, we want the progressives to say whatever crazy ass thing that they want, whatever their thing is, right? Because we want to come across as though, we are a big ass tent. Democrats can hold all of that stuff, and all politics is local. So if they're talking about reforming the idea of prison, of crime, and reducing crime, let them come up with their ideas. Let them talk about stuff that young people can get into, right? Whatever works for that. If the Republicans, Republican pundits are going to grasp at anything that we say and try to hold it against us. Don't make it so that we say less creative things, that we speak to more stodgy old stuff. Man, if they're talking about, hey, get rid of the Senate, if that's a thing that young kids are saying, we should listen to that. We should say, okay, good. Talk more,
you're right. Okay, why do you want us to get rid of the Senate? Because then they're going to start explaining to you the things that bother them. Stu, you're absolutely right. We've got the what I'm seeing, and the guy up in Michigan, the progressive that's leading up in Michigan. He's got a couple of videos out that he's just really talking to the people. These guys know what it is. Look, if you got people that can be social media influencers and get 1 million followers, then they realize the power of that as well. You just want to talk directly to the people that can vote for you. And he was in a particular district, he's talking directly to them, and they get it. All we got to do is keep looking back at Mamdani. It's just the way it is. So, yeah, I get what you were saying, Russ, but I do see what Stu is saying as well. One of the things
I think we should be listening to the young people. I just don't think they should be putting dumbass comments in the actual.
Well, they don't know it's a dumb, but they don't. How do they know it's a dumbass comment if they don't put it out there?
No, here's the thing. Instead of saying that,
go ahead, Russ. Go ahead, Russ. Instead of saying what?
Instead of saying, end prisons, that we need comprehensive prison reform so that people aren't put in there for a lifetime for small crimes. Things like that make more sense, and that's what they really want. Nobody wants serial killers and pedophiles in public. But
once again, though, if they don't, this is the thing I want you to try to get, Russ. Once again, I go back to what I said last week. If nobody's ever taught you how to tie your shoe, you're not going to know how to tie your shoe. One of the things that they talk about, like with SAT, those tests, how they're biased, they have questions on there that white people can relate to growing up under their culture. So if you have a situation where these kids, they want to do right, they see what's happening to their Latino friends being harassed by ICE, they see mothers not being able to get an abortion in certain states and being tracked down, they see all this stuff. So they start going online and they listen to people who are talking about these things. Now, if they're listening to somebody who doesn't know everything, doesn't know what they're talking about, but seems passionate and is trying to do it for the greater good, then they're going to follow that person. And they're going to repeat the stupid shit that they say. But they've been talking to them. That's it. We got to realize that everybody doesn't have the type of information that we have. That's something you got to understand. I've asked questions in front of people before, and they laughed at me. And I'm sitting there. I'm from North Carolina. I'm up here in New Hampshire. I don't know anything about that. So if you find my question funny, fine. But still, can you answer my question? It may seem dumb from the outside. Yes, you're right. It doesn't make any sense, but they don't know better. That's why it's important to have these type of discussions. Go ahead, Stu.
It's not for you. When they say end all prisons, right? They're not talking to you, Russ. They know, young people especially, man, they know they have 6 seconds to get your attention on social media. If they can get you hooked in 6 seconds, you'll listen to the rest, right? Mamdani gets that. He wore a really nice suit and jumped in the pool. All the grown-ups are like, you shouldn't do that. Don't jump in the pool in your suit. He's not dumb. He knows. I got 6 seconds, right? You jump in the pool in your suit. Now all the young people are leaning in saying, what's this dude about? Then he can talk about, well, I think all children should have food, and so we should have breakfast at school, or whatever it is, right? So when they say in that first 6 seconds, end all prisons, all the young people are leaning in like, whoa, that seems crazy. What's he going to say next? You can then say, now, what I mean by that is X, Y, or Z, but you got to get him in that 6 seconds.
Yeah, that meets me in the middle. I'm okay with that. And I'm just as hard on the Democrats for being hard on these people. We need that blood infusion. We need that blood infusion. We just can't have it be tainted where it kills us. We need to be able to work together. And I agree with you. We need to do a better job of listening to them, too. I just don't want them to burn us down when this is such an important election. That saying something that's too radical might help get young people to vote. But if it loses us the election, we win.
That's why you got to engage on the post. That's why you guys are good at it.
Yeah, that's why the party has to work together.
Yeah, but
we need both sides to show we are a big damn tent and we care. And I agree. Democrats like Carville calling them out and saying that they're, that we can't have them, that's bad. That's the same exact thing I'm talking about with them and their vernacular. Right. It's got to be symbiotic. We got to work together.
Yeah, you got the old heads trying to hold on to to the old school. Once again, it's just like Nick Saban, all these cats with NIL. Since they can't do it their way, they cry, they make temper tantrums, they say everything, but then you got somebody like Kurt Signetti over in Indiana who embraces it and knows how to talk to the kids, who knows what's up. So, James, your time's done. Get the fuck out of here, shut up, and let the new people come in that are doing it, that are getting these kids to want to vote because they don't like what the fuck is going on. Anyway, let's get back to the show.
It's now time for Howard's Hot Take.
All right, everybody, we're back, and right now it's time for my man Howard's Hot Take. Howard, take it away, my brother.
Hey, well, last week, actually the day after our last podcast, I went to see the Odyssey. And I wrote about it on my Substack, Ninja in the Woodpile. You should check it out if you get a chance. I'm not going to go into depth about that, but I've just been blown away. The reason I wrote that piece and I've continued to think about it is because I keep hearing this pushback, mostly from the MAGA right or people that I appear to be MAGA adjacent, and the complaints are pretty much what you would expect them to be. That's what they always talk about. They said that the movie was too woke, said it was a DEI project. They couldn't get over Lupita Nyong'o, I hope I pronounced her last name correctly, being cast as Helen of Troy. Lupita is a beautiful ebony-skinned woman, and for those who don't know her, Elliot Page was cast as a Roman soldier. As a Greek soldier. They couldn't get past that. They said it was a disgrace, and all of these things really blew my mind because it kind of what it did is it confirmed to me that two people can watch the same thing and see completely different, come away seeing completely different things. Because in my viewing of the Odyssey, which I enjoyed, I thought it was a great movie. Not as good as The Prestige, not as good as The Dark Knight or Inception, but very good. I saw it as a reflection of the type of world that these MAGA types seem to like. I was like, what's your problem with this movie? All of the people of color, all of the actors of color. And see, that's the thing. First thing that came to mind is you all are complaining because you just can't take a black face. You just can't take seeing a black person. It's like, we've gotten to this point where it's like, for some folks, it's like kryptonite. They see, a black actor in a role they don't expect and they just crumble. But anyway, Lupita, Zendaya, Himesh Patel, Corey Hawkins. He was the guy who played Robert Pattinson's henchman in there. Travis Scott, Will Young Lee. These are all non-white actors. But without exception, all of them were helpers. None of these characters had agency at all. Okay, now, in the role in which they were cast for the time, it was accurate. Women had no agency, or very little, even those in royalty. And these other actors of color were in positions that were subordinate positions. John Leguizamo, same thing. He played a slave. So I was just blown away by this, watching this and seeing some of these criticisms about these actors of color in these positions.
Right.
Now, the movie is androphobic. It's xenophobic. It's misogynistic. It's a violence-first environment. It's a stand-your-ground thing. The climatic scene of the movie is a dude killing everybody who's in his house because they invaded his house.
Right.
He's standing his ground, killing them all. This is like the great ending of the movie. Scene after scene, you see these Greeks are going to places that are not their lands, and they're doing whatever the hell they want to do there. They're what they can get away with. If they can't get away, they have to run back to the ship. I mean, but a lot of times they're raping, pillaging, plundering. That's what they're doing. So I'm just like, wow, what is the problem you guys have with this movie? Because, well, I'm watching it and I feel kind of repulsed by this type of stuff.
Yeah.
But this is like MAGA world. This is like us going to Greenland. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the movie, this was the point that I wanted to drive home, was that at the end of the movie, now the Odyssey, I'm not going to go spoilers for the Odyssey. It's freaking 3,000 years old.
Mm.
If you don't know the story of the Odyssey, then
never
never
going to know it. Yeah.
But at the end of the story, this dude who's done pretty bad stuff, Odysseus, he gets to keep his house. He gets to keep his wealth. He gets to keep his name. He gets to actually write his own story, because everything that we know to be the truth of the matter of his story, he doesn't tell anybody else. Mm-hmm. He kind of barely tells his wife, who's not telling anybody. Mm-hmm. So the song of Odysseus goes uncorrected. He is a hero of the Trojan War. Mm-hmm. He passes his wealth down to his pussy ass son, who gets to be the king now, because he's going off west in the sunset with his wife. So to me, that's a MAGA happily ever after. I enjoyed the Odyssey. I think it's a really good movie. I would recommend people go to see it. I wouldn't recommend, now if you are a young person who has never read the Odyssey and is assigned the Odyssey to write a report about it, you don't want to read it, you think you're going to go to the movie, do not do that, or else you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Okay, don't do that. Read the poem. Read the poem. Yeah. But I just have to say that it was not unexpected, but eye-opening to me, mm-hmm. that still in some parts of in some communities with some folks, the appearance of people of color, even in a non-threatening role, mm-hmm. even in roles, all those people I name, all those actors, all of them meet some kind of terrible demise, or something bad happens to them. Right. None of these people are like the token hero, but yet they can't take that. Yeah. So I don't know whether to be mad about it or just laugh about it, because these people are so fucking stupid. But the the Odyssey is not a woke movie, people. That's the bottom line. It's not. It's a conservative, patriarchal, violent, sexually oppressive movie. That's what it is. And that's what the Greek poem is too. So in that respect, Chris Nolan got it right. It was a good movie. I give it 3.5 stars out of 4.
Now that's what's up.
Hey, this is Mr. Hashtag. And I got to say, that hot take by Howard was fire. I mean, that was pretty much on point. But let's see what the fellas got to say about it.
First of all, I think the biggest thing that they were tripping off on, because, everybody's going to jump to what Musk says, is Lupita being cast as Helen of Troy. But when you look at them, first of all, it's fictional. All right, people need to understand that. Yeah. It's fictional. So that shit about it being historically correct and all that is just nonsense. It's bullshit. And what you said about the movie is what I've heard others say about it. These MAGA folks are so fucking stupid that they don't realize that the movie is exactly what you said it is, Howard, because they're so focused on the black faces. They're so focused on Lupita. They're listening to that idiot Musk, and they're just following right along. Historically correct. The racism has gotten so bad that their stupidity is just making it to the point where you just have to laugh at it. You're right. You have to laugh at their anger over all of this shit, which is just insane. What are your thoughts on it, Stu?
Man, she was born from a swan's egg, right? Isn't that a thing, right?
Yeah.
Man, so that's that. I love that idea that it really should be every MAGA should be buying a ticket. They would love this. That's when they say we want to get back to this golden time, that's what they want, right? They want slavery. They want this misogyny,
Going from country to country, raping and pillaging,
yeah,
I mean, that's MAGA all the way. I don't know. It's getting to the point now, man, where it's tiring. As soon as they say something that you know is a lie and it's been debunked already, it's like, I just need to just move on. Because I'm just going to be wasting my time and energy with this person. Like you said, can't get that time back. You just can't get it back. And the way these people are upset about this movie, I'm like, yo, get a fucking life. Why are you so upset? And like you said, if you see the movie, you'll realize that most of these people that you're upset about are in some way saying, yes, massa, no, massa, in some form of fashion. They're subservient, so they just get to the point where they just bother me. Russ, what are your thoughts on what Howard just broke down?
Is there anything they aren't sensitive about? I mean, and based on what Stu and Howard said, about this being MAGA, like a dream world, raping and pillaging, I was trying to come up with a name while you guys were talking that would connotate gravy seals, which we're dealing with right now. And I came up with veal parmesan Vikings. A little bit of French cuisine with their rape and pillage. I mean, these guys all think they're tough, but they project weakness when I look at them, and wanting to hurt LGBTQ or, the transsexual athletes or black people still. I mean, black people are still their favorite to hate.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
I think transsexuals might have taken the lead on that one.
No, brother. No. Russ, no.
Okay. I think your word on that one.
Yeah, we control that shit, hands down, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all you got to do is look at this week. All you got to do is look at all this shit this week. The cops that are just fucking us over. You got the one brother playing with his white friends. He gets thrown to the street and get handcuffed while his white friends just standing around, but the cops just handcuffed him. Trust me, we hold the spot, man. Yeah. So
and so it's basically just they hate everything that doesn't look exactly like them, and the more marginalized the group they're attacking, the happier they are because they just feel safe doing it, and it's pathetic.
Yeah. It really is just something for them to complain about and just something for them to just hate about. And like you said, they're upset about something that's a lie. It's fiction. You're mad. Look, any artist, anybody that's doing a movie, they're going to take the story and a director is going to present it in a manner that they feel fit. That's their creativity. Something you got to, like, what's my man that did Edward Scissorhands? That guy, Tim Burton. You just got to be in a Tim Burton type of mood. Quentin Tarantino type of move. What's my man? Guy Ritchie. You got to be in a fucking Guy Ritchie kind of mood to listen to a bunch of guys talk about fish and chips and all that. What Nolan did is what Nolan does. All right? And so to all you MAGA heads, chill the fuck out, watch the movie, and stop repeating dumb shit. Now, those are the people that you can say repeating dumb shit, Russ. Those are the people. Anyway, we'll come right back with our next topic.
Hey, everybody. This is Mr. Hashtag on WEMX, Remix, Social Media Radio. And now, let's get back to the show.
Okay, everybody, we're back, and this week, Dr. Fauci appeared before Congress. His recent appearance before the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, it just reignited that whole debate after he repeatedly invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, a perjury trap. And we're going to get into that later. But basically, his diary comes out, and, you got Rand Paul, you got all these senators. I mean, I really wish I could have just walked up in there and just smacked one of them in the face, because the way that they were treating Fauci was just rude. It was just rude. It was incredible. This is the thing I really want to say before I get your guys' opinions on this hearing this week. Stephen A. Smith, this asshole, sorry, Stu, got to bring this one up. This fool goes on talking about he wants to apologize to Kyrie Irving. He's basically saying that since Fauci pleaded the fifth that he's guilty, which he isn't, and that Kyrie was right about the vaccine and all that. No, Kyrie is just as big as an idiot as you are, Stephen A. I hate the fact that you have this situation with Fauci, and he's in a situation where you can see that they're trying to do something, but they want to talk about if you're guilty, you don't plead the fifth. Well, that fucking orange dude plead the fifth. We got so many other motherfuckers pleading the fifth. But this is the problem that we had. This goes back to messaging and what's happening. They're going to use Fauci as much as they can. The pushback that he's getting is okay, but that whole situation, the way it was used, is already getting traction in terms of what was the intention of doing it. So, Howard, give me your thoughts on what you got out of that hearing and how you felt the GOP was trying to run down their agenda.
It was well, I mean, the pleading the fifth is that's what it's there for. So I have no problem with anyone pleading the fifth if that's their right to do so. So that's what it is. As far as the Fauci thing, I mean, this is another. They're trying to again, and this has been one of the big projects of the second term. They're trying to recontextualize and rewrite what happened in the first Trump administration, and while Trump has been in the office or in the orbit of the office. And the fact of the matter is that Trump screwed up the response for COVID, and for them to try to shift the blame. And the first thing, and when I say shift the blame, that's terrible. That sounds stupid, because the fact of the matter is we recovered from COVID better than most every country in the world.
We did,
and came up with the vaccine.
Yeah.
So what blows my mind is, did they forget about the bodies they were piling up outside the hospitals in New York? I mean, it just blows my mind. Do they not know anyone? Because I certainly knew people who died of COVID.
Yeah,
I had my aunt was one of the people who died in a nursing home of COVID. All of those things happen. So it just blows my mind that they would even do something like it. Doesn't surprise me. It just blows my mind that we've come so low as a society as to try to have this show trial of somebody who didn't do anything.
Didn't do anything wrong at all.
Yeah, didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
So that what blows my mind.
Yeah, it blows my mind in the fact that all this man tried to do was save people's lives. And speaking of lives that he saved, and he made sure they were okay, Stephen Miller and his pregnant wife.
And Trump.
And that orange dude. You know what I mean? You look at all this crap, and the Millers want to sue him for what? The man did nothing but save your life. And that, I love that meme where you got Rand Paul say, well, I'm a doctor. And he said, no, you're an ophthalmologist. Okay. Yeah. You don't do what I do. It's like my wife. She does disease research. So if there's anything dealing with disease research, dopamine, anything dealing with that, I'm going to listen to my wife. I'm going to listen to my wife's friend, Tara, who has a PhD in marine biology when it comes to anything dealing with. See, I'm going to listen to people who actually know what the fuck they're talking about. Dr. Fauci, he was there at the beginning of the AIDS when they were finally starting to figure out ways to treat it. He was there. and they talk about how he was there trying to save people. All Fauci tried to do, he made calls to Stephen Miller's wife, making sure she was okay. When she landed, he talked to the doctors, he's making sure that people are okay, looking at what they're dealing with, taking all this information every single day to get us in a situation where we could go back to work, so people wouldn't complain that the NBA finals is being played in the bubble, so that they can get their football back, everything back. Then the going after Fauci, the way they're doing it is insane. But the purpose, in my opinion, is succeeding. Russ, give me your thoughts on what you thought about that.
Well, I find it interesting that the people who were attacking him are the people who are responsible for millions of deaths, while this hero has spent his whole life helping people and saving people. There's estimates between 25 and 50 million lives saved by one man, Dr. Anthony Fauci. He led the NIAID, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, for 38 years and created the most powerful anti-pandemic response in the world with that institute. He advised 7 presidents and has all kinds of awards, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom from Republican George W. Bush. He fought effectively against HIV and AIDS, West Nile, anthrax, SARS, H1N1, swine flu, Ebola, Zika, and COVID-19. And his information was accurate, but it had to be dispensed in a way that Trump would accept it. So he had to be careful how he did it, trying to reach people who don't wear masks or wash their hands because they don't care if they spread. They were too dumb to know that the mask wasn't to protect them. It was to protect others from them, which means they just didn't care if they spread it to others. And as you guys know, 6 years ago right now, I was on a ventilator with a 1% chance of survival. The first thing I remember after my ventilator experience was seeing the fertilizer explosion in Beirut, Lebanon on August 4th. That's the first thing I remember from news to know what day it was, because I lost track of time. 16 days is a long time to be just missing a swath of time. And if you ever want to go over it in detail, I'm willing to do it. But it was brutal. I have PTSD from that experience. And I see that man as a hero. I lost my mom to this disease because it's dangerous. And apparently she and I shared some DNA sequence that made us vulnerable. But before COVID, I never got sick. I spent 1 week in the hospital with a ruptured appendix. And other than that, not one night in the hospital. And I lost 48 sick days when I got laid off at the University of Phoenix because I just didn't miss work. I wash my hands. I'm careful. I have good hygiene and I take, sickness seriously. And how they could just not care about everyone around them. That's an indictment on Republicans. Dr.
They don't give a damn. They don't give a damn about anybody. You see that those fools were sitting around praying after they voted cut those Medicaid cuts. They're gonna come there and gather on the floor, and this shit pisses me off so much. It's like Levitt. That heifer lies so much. She need to take that fucking cross off. I mean, I'm just tired of this saying I'm a Christian. No, show me you're a Christian. That's why I always talk about, like, Mr. Rogers. I never knew he was a Presbyterian minister until years later. But you know what? It makes sense. His actions were godly. He had to say it and he had to tell anybody and all that. His actions were that way. But when you look at all of this with Fauci and the way these guys were going at him, I mean, come on. Was it really a legitimate hearing, or was it just political theater?
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, man.
I didn't know if we were switching just to. Sorry. I think it was just political theater, pandering to their base because they know they're in danger in November, and they're trying to find a way to make him the boogeyman right now and show that they're tough on those liberals who are forcing you to stay at home or your children to stay at home. And it was Trump who gave those orders. Fauci just recommended it to save lives. But they love blaming other people for their sins. And it's, you're right. I'm always thinking of Maya Angelou. When people tell you who they are, believe them. Yeah. And they tell us who they are when they attack a hero like Anthony Fauci in bold words, bold letters.
Yep, exactly. All right, everybody. We're going to take a break, take a stop, and coming right back, we're going to hit you with Russ Remembers History.
Hey, everyone. This is Mr. Hashtag. And now it's time for Russ Remembers History.
Okay, everybody, what's up? We're back, and right now, it's time for Russ Remembers History. Russ, take it away, my man.
Okay, this is part 2 of what we just covered with the Fauci thing. I'm calling it the two sides of humanity, the good side and the dark side. So we went over the good side, which is men like Dr. Fauci, and it's not just Dr. Fauci. There are millions of people who work hard to make this world a better place, especially for people who suffer from diseases. But there are a lot of policies on the right side of things, which is ironic because it's the wrong side. And those things, they are juxtaposed with the compassion we share with things like genocide. And so I wanted to go over a few of them. The earliest biological warfare was giving blankets laced with smallpox to Native Americans. It didn't kill a lot of people, but it was still a pretty scary thing because smallpox has killed hundreds of millions of people. Yeah. In 1492, there were up to 40 million Native Americans have died from genocide in this country. In 1492, there were approximately 10 million, but over 500 years, there were many generations. And in 1900, it's estimated that there were 300,000 Native Americans left. So roughly 40 million Native Americans were slaughtered from genocide. Slaves were considered cargo. And if they were running out of food or the food spoiled, the easiest thing to do was to throw the cargo overboard. And that's a simple way of saying killing all the number of slaves they needed to be able to get across the water. And because it was cargo, they were reimbursed by insurance companies for the lost income for that. So that's just warped capitalism right there. We also had the Chinaman's Chance, which was railroads and using explosives. And they had pretty short fuses. And if they made it, great. If they didn't, there was another Chinese immigrant that could take his place. And I don't have an estimate on the number for that, but a lot of them died, hence the saying. We had obviously lynchings, 6,500 at least documented lynchings.
That's at least.
And that's probably a very low number in my opinion, from what I know. In 1860, that was in 1862. We had Japanese internment camps. That's the one that we did, that liberals did during World War II. Oh, 1862. That's what the number was. Sorry. That's how many died in the internment camp. But it wasn't slaughter. It was disease and poor medical conditions, probably malnutrition, etc. And then with USAID, the end of USAID by Trump last year, that is estimated to kill. See, where's that number? I'm sorry, I can't read my scribbles.
No problem.
25 million by 2030, or no, 15 million by 2030, and then right now, 5.4 million of those are going to be children, and 700,000 more each year will be children going forward, as long as it's not there. And then that's just American. I mean, that doesn't count things like the Inquisition, witch trials, the Crusades, Stalin, 60 to 20 million. He was a conservative. Lenin was 1 to 5 million. He was a conservative. And Hitler, we know that was 12 million.
Yeah.
So the right wing of our society is really good at genocide, and we're really good at compassion. And if we could just get them to act like the Christians they profess to be, this world could be really good for everyone. Poverty alone kills 583,000 Americans every year. So just with poverty alone, they kill more Americans than any other cause. Just Republican policies, whether it's no health care, gun violence, and just lifelong poverty, which causes death through like diabetes and stuff. So that's the estimates. 583,000 Americans a year die from poverty-related causes and gun violence in our country. That's shocking.
That's what's up, man. And thanks, Russ. I mean, when I look at just Republicans and trying to get them to do something, we can't get them to do anything. We got to talk to people who can vote them out. We're just at that point now. They don't give a fuck. Let's just be real. They don't give a fuck. And you look at the fact that what they're trying to do with the Medicare and Medicaid, those cuts coming in 2027, trying to sneak that under the board. But just this whole thing with going at Fauci for trying to take care of people. And now this fool is talking about making sure that you can only keep Medicare if you have cancer and you can prove that you can't work. If somebody has fucking cancer, they can't work. If people who have cancer that want to go to work, they go to work when they can. But there are a lot of times that doctors need them resting. We're in this bizarre world, and it's fucking killing me. It's just amazing to me. What were your thoughts, Stu, on what Russ just broke down, man?
The cruelty is a feature, not a bug. So that is that. It would be nice to find a way to convince folks on the other side of the aisle to resist the urge to what is psychological transference, right? My dad beat me, so I'm going to beat my kids because I can't control my emotions, right? That cruelty is from stuff that's happened in their childhoods, and to convince them to go to therapy, talk to somebody, find a way to find your kindness, your humanity, your love for other people, and maybe we can shift some things.
Yeah, maybe. I'm hoping so. What did you think, Howard, about what Russ presented, my man?
Well, a very good and depressing presentation.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But it's. I wish, if I had the answer, then I would probably be running this thing. No, I'm just kidding. but it's as Russ was pointing out over the centuries. I mean, this is part of the human condition, and part of what of being humane in the human condition is trying to work against that, whatever it is, that thing. I can't relate to that carnal urge. You're not carnal. I can relate to the carnal, to the homicidal urge. I cannot. That I don't have that, but I'm not saying that it couldn't be there.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? I think some of that can be conditioned, and that's our society has started to trend toward the conditioning of people to be violent, and we need to move away from that. So.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And yeah, Russ, what you broke down, people need to pay attention to that. But it's really hard to get that across to people because people get so locked into what they're seeing in those first 15 seconds on all this social media and these influencers that got their attention. The whole objective of what we're doing, we're trying to interject what we're doing to get their attention from these people. I don't. Like I said, I try inviting these people on the show. They won't come on the show. They're not trying to fuck with us, But hopefully, eventually, I can get somebody on the show. Maybe trick them, lie to them. I don't know, but I would like to get some people on the show so we can, actually hear what they're saying, and just their questions that I just want to say, why? Why do you think that when it's been proven that's not the case? These guys, why would you hear Rand Paul talking about Fauci in this way and that manner, and then come to find out from a caterer at an event for Rand Paul to go to, he had to make sure that he showed proof that he was vaccinated, blah, 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 and all that to come into the place. These people are talking about look, this is the thing that bugs me out. Anybody my age has been vaccinated. If you went to public school, you've been vaccinated. And that's probably like the biggest thing that's always blown my mind. That's why I'm like, Kyrie Irving is such a fucking idiot. You play ball at Duke. You damn sure didn't go to any classes while you were at Duke. Because you say that, first of all, dude's a flat earther. And he says this shit about the damn vaccines. Anybody that's been to school has been vaccinated. And that's what blows my mind about it. These people don't want to vaccinate their kids. And now you got the largest measles outbreak in the Northeast in the last 30 years. Measles outbreak. This shit can be prevented if you just give them the fucking vaccine. And this, what people complain about billionaires all the time. You know what? They complain about billionaires and millionaires, but that's all these people listen to. They listen to the billionaires and millionaires. They give them this bad information. They complain about shit. They listen to the billionaires and millionaires who are being hit off by the red hatters and MAGA and all these conservatives. And then they take all that shit, and then they get mad at the Dems for shit that's controlled by the red hatters. These people out here are so fucking stupid. I mean, look, I hope you're paying attention to it. What I'm saying right now, a lot of you people out here are fucking stupid. All right. You just are. And the main reason I say that is because you're either very, very stupid or you lack humility. There's certain things that come to a point where you realize that, damn, that's wrong. How many times does this guy have to lie about something, this orange dude, and you find out moments later that it's a lie, but you just keep on going? See, those are the things that we're constantly dealing with. And what happens with Fauci in that meeting? All these influencers, red hatters, like I said, Stephen A. goes on and talking about he wants to apologize to Kyrie, which is just the most idiotic thing in the world. But it's hard to fight that media machine. I'm just going to be honest, fellas. Yes, everything that you broke down, Russ, this mindset, Idi Amin, fucking Genghis Khan. You look at all these people that have that type of fascist mentality. There's nothing good that comes for the people because of that. But they just want to keep on going. Anyway, take a quick break, come back. We got to talk about homegirl that's on the case. All right.
Hey, everyone. This is Mr. Hashtag. And I hope you are enjoying the chat, the convo, the insight, the dialogue. And now, let's get back to the show.
All right, everybody, we're back, and everybody's happy that Nancy Grace is on the case. And for me, we're finding out this new stuff. We had Officer Tatum going and do this interview that was just full of lies. Like he was talking to that kid, and the kid talked about last time he saw him was at 3:00. But then at 4:30, he was at the boat, and they were telling him to get on the boat, some crap like that. But anyway, with Nancy Grace on the case, there seems like everybody, black, white, everybody is like happy that she's on the case. Now, me initially, I have skepticism. You know why I have skepticism? This is the same heifer. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I might be wrong because I'm really confused about this. But hadn't she supported MAGA and the red hat and all that shit? Hadn't she done that before? Am I wrong, fellas? Am I wrong in that? Okay. So what is her reasoning for being so involved in it? Is it because it's her thing? She's like, oh, I can get big again or whatever on it. Because for me, I'm pissed because not only am I seeing this with Nolan Wells, but I've seen so many other situations this week. We didn't even talk about the brother that got shot in the face 3 times. We didn't even talk about that. There's so much crazy shit that's happening to us right now. And I hear about everybody's happy with Nancy on the case. For me, I'm just like, I don't know. I really want to get your thoughts on Nancy Grace being on the case and if this is a good thing or a bad thing. Howard, give me your thoughts first, man.
I don't think about Nancy Grace at all. I'm just going to say that flat out.
Right.
I don't, I've never watched her show. I've seen clips of her usually in documentaries that are like true crime documentaries where she is like, they'll show a clip where she'll say, and this was so-and-so, whatever. Mm. So if she's bringing more attention to Nolan Wells' case, great, because it definitely seems that it should be something that needs to be put under more scrutiny. But that's her thing. That's her niche. That's her thing. Mm-hmm. I can show you a good Dr. Phil show, but where he had a good topic on it. Mm-hmm. But Dr. Phil, I don't think very highly of because I think he's a quack and he does bad things. Right. Now, I don't know much about Nancy Grace, but unfortunately, I put her in that basket. I'm just saying I put Nancy. I don't know if I don't know anything about Nancy Grace. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I don't know if she's she like went to Northwestern Journalism School and she's just a great person, or she's a judge, or what her background is. Right. But I do know that she probably has a bunch of supplement ads on during when it's on, mm-hmm. and they're and they're probably it's on that rotation with them with the same with the all the other shows like that. Right. So that's why I don't put much stock into it. It brings eyes to it. Nolan Wells is, this is the cynical part of it. Nolan Wells is hot. Nolan Wells' case is hot. Yeah. You know what I mean? The guy, the unfortunate brother who got shot 3 times in the face that case may not pick up as much traction, and Nancy Grace may not be on that one. Yeah. So that's what I think about it. But if it helps in this case, Go with God. Great. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. But I just really wonder. For me, I'm like, so now you want to be healthy? You concerned about the black man? Are you really concerned, Nancy? For me, it's I just think she's doing it because it's the hot case. It's like a lawyer, and you got this big murder case, and you're like, I can get on that shit. That can help me. So, Stu, what are your thoughts on it, man?
So, first off, Nancy Grace resembles a kind of racism in America and American media. Nancy Grace is really good at missing white woman syndrome, right? When you talk, right, y'all nodding your heads, right? That's her. That is absolutely her. It wasn't a thing before Nancy Grace. So there's that. And then coupled with that is she demeans people of color in her shows. If the victim is black, if the villain in the case is black, she treats it differently, right? She does things that if an independent person looked at it, they'd say, oh, that appears to be racist. I'm not saying that. But I'm also going to say that there is an upside to this idea of commentators about people getting in and talking to witnesses during an active investigation, right? Mm-hmm. The police have a certain amount of difficulty. The police, you could say what you want, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but there's that joke about the speeder and the police officer says, I pulled you over, and the person who was speeding says, because you couldn't get better than a C in high school, right? So there's that. And so having independent journalists out there beating the bushes for snakes and interviewing people, there's a lot of upside to that. And so I don't want to discourage people like Nancy Grace. If she's going to shine light on this, man, Nolan seems like we should be caring about this kind of stuff. And when I heard it was a judge's kid was involved, I was like, come on, we know what's up. Yeah. Right. Even if they just sort of screwed it up, the cover up is the thing that we need to say, no, let's value everybody, right? Black lives matter. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah. You know what? This is when I take the time and, I take some of my own advice, prioritize it. Now, look, I just wanted to know about Nancy and, am I confused on that? But you're right. If what she's doing can bring light and give us justice, then I'm all for it. I can admit that. That's the priority. My thing, I was just kind of curious, can we trust her? That was probably like my biggest thing with all of this. Can we trust that her intentions are true? But what she's doing right now, I mean, the way she called out Brandon Tatum on his lies and everything, which was fantastic. I mean, I can't stand that motherfucker. I mean, when I said that's another brother, look, I ever see him, yeah, he and I got some words, because all he does is just demean, and all he does is just pushes us back 100 years back to Jim Crow. That brother is the worst. But Russ, what are your thoughts on it, man?
Well, they did a whole segment on the newsroom about Nancy Grace because they were doing not a parody, but they were doing their own version with a story that was going on. So they were using Nancy Grace and the woman who was accused of killing her daughter, Carly something. Anyway, they were evaluating how she does things. And the takeaway I got from the way they presented it is she does what gets her ratings with the right segment of society to get the most dollar amount for her advertisements while she's doing her, her thing.
That's what Howard said. Yep.
And it was excellent. Like, it's some of the best television I've ever watched, because they're talking about selling their souls to do this. They didn't want to do it, but they started doing it anyway, because they had to join in. It was on the same thing that Nancy Grace was doing. So anyway, it's a double-edged sword. I love that it's bringing attention to it, because God knows between when that happened and today, there's probably 7 or 8 African Americans who were killed, and nobody's investigating it, or if not dozens more. Like, I don't know what the number is, but it's not 0. And if she's bringing it to attention and it's getting ratings and it's getting to suburban America, that's not necessarily a bad thing. The only problem is if it takes a turn away from justice, because that's the direction the base that she's approaching and trying to appeal to wants it to go a different direction, it could have adverse effects. But attention right now is important. I mean, just like there are so many people who, and it isn't just African American, indigenous people have been disappearing for a century.
Yeah.
And nobody investigates them.
Yep.
So this country needs to pay attention to the marginalized people who are killed, raped and murdered, disappear, human trafficked. And we all say we care with the Epstein files, but until yesterday, nobody had access to them.
Yeah.
And now a judge has access, unredacted. So maybe we'll start seeing some movement on a lot of things that matter to us. Justice for marginalized people who are forgotten in our society.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great way of putting it, Russ. Very, very, very solid way of putting it. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break, and we're coming back with Stu serving stats. The way that it's being investigated, and this is what bothers me about the DOJ right now. If you had Kamala up in there as president right now, the DOJ would be all over this case. the DOJ being a point where they would have had the FBI go in and said, okay, why is his trachea, why the items from his neck missing in the autopsy? That is a very important thing. See, Tatum doesn't talk about that, but that is a very important thing. The autopsy came back undetermined because they need to know they need to see the trachea. Why is they keeping that? Why are they keeping that from them? And the woman, the Mississippi coroner that's in charge of that, she has a history of, I don't know, suspicious autopsies or not doing things the right way. So I got a huge issue with that. And like I said, if the DOJ was actually doing its job and the FBI, things would be different right now. And I strongly believe that.
Hey everyone, this is Mr. Hashtag. And now it's time for Stu Serving Stats.
Hey everybody, we're back, and now it's time for my man Stu Serving Stats. Hey Stu, the floor is yours. What you got, my man?
What's up? So I want to talk about, we're getting closer to the midterms, and so there's this conversation about the Democratic Party and where are we at and where are the numbers at. And so I did a little digging. According to Gallup data, Gallup polling, when they track party identification, the percentage of Americans who explicitly identify as Democrats has dropped to 27%. Both parties saw a drop in official registration, official identification, and a record 45% of Americans now identify as independents. If we look at Gen Z, over 56% of Gen Z adults now identify as independents rather than aligning with either party. While that type of membership is down, formal membership in Democrats or GOP, while that is down, Democratic-leaning independents has gone up to 20%, up from about 16% in 2024. Total affiliation of Democrats and Dem-leaners sits at 47% versus Republicans, and Republican-leaning, which is 42%, which actually breaks a reasonable streak of Republican advantage. So again, Democrats and Dem-leaners, 47%, Republicans, Republican-leaning, 42%. Here we go, building up a little rhythm here. In state legislative special elections, Democratic candidates have been outperforming their 2024 presidential baseline by an average of 11.5 points. Okay? In special elections, Democrats have been outperforming their 24 presidential baseline by 11 points. Okay? We talk about the midterm turnout gap, right? In midterm years, youth turnout drops to 23%, whereas older suburban voters, their turnout is over 55%. So if we look at that suburban baseline, college educated, suburban adults, that's the core independent swing vote, they turn out at 56% across the board every single election cycle. Pew Research says that is the single dominant force shaping the midterms. And that's where we're at right now. We can make this work.
All right. Well, I mean, that's some good information, but for me, I got some thoughts on this. Russ, give me your thoughts on that first. Give me your thoughts on that first, Russ. I got some thoughts. I kind of want to get my thoughts together, but tell me what you think, man.
Well, that gives me an idea. We've been trying to figure out how to get out the vote more. And just allowing independents to have the option to vote for a Democrat on their ballot, because they can't force us to open up our primary. When it's a closed primary, it's a First Amendment issue. The Supreme Court has ruled on that. But there's nothing saying we can't accept if they have a Democrat on their independent ballot and they want to be able to vote without having to become a Democrat. It could add votes to candidates and they'd have a say in who the Democrats are electing. That might bring them into the fold a little bit more because they have a voice and we're listening to them. So that's something the Democratic Party should think about. I don't know what the ramifications would be if a lot more conservatives are voting and they're writing in the name of, Donald Trump's son, things like that. But if they're sincere about it and it's a legitimate vote, we should consider opening up have an independent primary and allow it to count towards the Democratic primary so they have a voice. That might help with some of the building bridges to the people who feel disenfranchised.
Well, right now I'm talking about the midterms.
Oh, I know. I know it's too late to do it this year. I'm talking maybe for the presidential election in 2028, where we open up our primaries and get more interaction with the independent voters. Sorry, I should have been more clear.
Sorry. Yeah. So, Stu, let me ask you. So, when you look at those numbers, what is your frame of thinking on that in terms of who to attack and to push the agenda towards?
So every time I look at this, I keep seeing the same thing. If you live in a place where progressives are respected, then talk about those progressive issues and go for those conservatives and talk about what will move that needle there. If you're in a more conservative place, talk about the economy to those independents. You don't have to worry about the base, right? Every Democrat's coming out, right? They're gonna drive, they're gonna walk if they can, they're gonna vote by mail, right? You're still allowed to, right? It's those independents, but those independents focus on what they're dissatisfied with, the economy, right? Access to healthcare, right? How much their groceries are.
Right.
We stick to those issues. You talk to them locally. You talk about how Democrats are going to be able to very slowly, right, incrementally improve infrastructure, make things better on groceries, make things better on healthcare. That's going to be the ballgame.
I feel you. What do you think, Howard? What do you think, man?
Well, I mean, I agree with Stu's conclusion at the end of his presentation. Is that it's very doable. I'm always wonder when I hear those numbers. Whenever I see these polls and they say 50% of Republicans do this and 30%, they never give us the raw numbers. Because see, the thing comes down to numbers, not in the primary, for like a general election, and they say 50% of Republicans support. Well, let's just say 35%. 35% of Republicans, or like the MAGA core, support Donald Trump regardless of anything.
Right.
How many people is that?
That right there is a very good question. Yes.
And also, but you with that number, you also have to talk about the number of independents because, as Stu pointed out, the party had defections. Both parties had defections. They went into this big pool of independent voters now. Yeah. And they probably did that because they wanted to give themselves permission, so to speak, to consider something else. Right. So they wouldn't feel like they were locked in. And so that's a great opportunity right now for both parties, actually. But obviously right now, the Democrats are the ones who have the wind at the back of their backs. They need to take advantage of that and do exactly what Stu was saying, was to tailor their message for the audience that the constituency that you're serving. And I think that can be very well done with candidates. Obviously Maine, let's use Maine as an example. even though Plattner had to get off the ticket, it was obvious that Maine was looking for a progressive candidate.
Mm-hmm.
So to replace Plattner with somebody that wasn't a progressive would have been a bad move. So that's why they put, what's the guy's name? Jones? What is his name?
I forgot what the dude's name is, but
but the guy, so that's it comes down to knowing your constituency, knowing the people that you're going to be serving, and for the candidate to deliver that message, whatever that message is, whatever they'd be receptive to. Like Stu was saying, he's from South Jersey, which is red, if not maybe kind of purple, but certainly reddish. The progressive the message of free Palestine might not.
Yeah, it might not work there. Yeah.
Might not move a lot of people there. They say, well, okay, well, what about my grocery bill?
Yep. Exactly. So. Yeah. And I think when you look at probably the biggest thing that I had, Stu, with that is like, how many people is that? That's what I'm looking at. The percentages are good, but I need to know the number of people that, who's, like you said, when I talk about the Democratic Party, first of all, I talk about how many registered Democrats there are compared to registered to Republicans. And there are more registered Democrats than there are Republicans in terms of voting. So I'm always looking at the number. Yeah, the percentages are good, but without having the numbers, I'm still like, okay, how do you properly attack, some of those things? Go ahead, my man. What are you going to say?
Sure. And the next time we do this, I'm going to try to bring the numbers. But I also want to point out, right, that when we're talking about Dems versus GOP, even in terms of percentage, the GOP voters are, by and large, retired. They are more well-to-do. They have an easier schedule.
Yeah.
They have an easier time getting time off to vote. When we talk about Dems, a lot of them are minimum wage workers that getting time off to vote is a heavy-duty thing. And that is one of the big issues that we face. And
well, you got those redheaders in deep places like Arkansas that they're struggling with a lot of Dems as well to get out there and vote. So it ain't just
a national holiday would solve the whole thing.
Yeah, a national holiday would. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And,
it's one of those things for whatever reason the legislative branch has decided to just keep pushing that down the road. I don't know why.
I mean, it's an easy fix. The first Tuesday first Tuesday in November of an election year should be the holiday, plain and simple. This right here, I'm getting ready to bring up, Howard, last week, your hot take, you talking about the taxes, something that you're just tired of hearing about and people just complain about. Well, I have another one that the GOP is always pushing, and that's regulations. Look, government regulations ought to become political targets because they're viewed as unnecessary bureaucracy that slows economic growth. Anyway, but many of those regulations were created after Americans were harmed by unsafe food, dangerous workplace, polluted waters, defective products, and preventable public health crises like COVID, or like the Cyclops thing we got with the diarrhea lettuce right now. So when I hear about all this stuff about, cutting these regulations and all that, look, regulations in the financial sector, have they ever helped us? No, they haven't. So when you look at what's going on right now with the FDA and you look at all these things that they're trying to cut in terms of regulations, hell, just even with dealing with pharmaceuticals, dealing with the regulations that are structured in Medicaid for prescriptions for people with Alzheimer's, which I don't even understand why he would take away Alzheimer's. I guess he wants to only have the only Alzheimer's drugs that are helping people right now. But this whole thing that's going on with regulations and always cutting it. this is like one of those things I have to constantly debunk and explain to people when they start repeating Fox faux news points and everything. People, I'm just going to say this one last time. Regulations are good. Regulations are a great thing. Cutting regulations, you need to ask yourself, why do they want to cut regulations? And don't let them just throw that bureaucracy shit at you. Cutting regulations as it pertains to drinking water, when has that ever been a good thing? So Stu, give me your thoughts on that whole thing about, regulations and cutting regulations and why we're constantly fighting this. Give me your thoughts on what I broke down, my man.
Man, so regulations keep people alive, right? This idea of CLV, right? You want to talk to a money person, a business person who are like, oh, regulations are bad, right? You talk about CLV, customer lifetime value, right? Regulations keep your customer alive for longer, which means they will spend more money on your product.
Exactly.
Right? So we could talk about that, right? We could talk about the lives, right? Regulations, okay? OSHA, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So before OSHA, just about 14,000 workplace deaths every year. After OSHA, that number dropped to about 5,000 workplace deaths a year. And that number gets lower and lower every year. Okay. Before, you'd say, oh, OSHA's modern, right? So I went and I looked. There was the Railway Safety Act of 1893. So before then, we had coupling accidents, right? You have two big cars, you got to couple them together. That was super dangerous. And for workplace injuries, coupling was 1 out of every 3 injuries. After the Railway Safety Act in 1893, that became 1 out of every 9 injuries, right? Regulations work. We should love regulations. They're good for everybody.
Yes, indeed. Yes, and look, it's just common sense. But when you have Fox and you have them pushing these talking points all the time, people just ain't getting it. And when they're associated with the Dems and they're saying they keep, all this is the biggest thing. These regulations are keeping us from making money and passing these savings on to you. No, that's bullshit. You just don't want to pay to get rid of the chemicals the proper way. Russ, give me your thoughts on the whole thing about regulations and your view on it, my man.
Well, let's go back to Teddy Roosevelt, who could read a book over breakfast. He chose to read Upton Sinclair, The Jungle, which was trying to make America socialist. And instead of hitting him in the brain, he hit him in his stomach. He saw what was in his food, his breakfast, and he allegedly threw the breakfast out the window and started regulating the food industry. And the amount of sawdust that is allowed in your bread today is not 0. The allowable amount of rat poison or rat meat in your sausage is not 0 today. It's regulated, but it's not regulated to 0. And just a few years ago under Biden, they had the PPP money, right, for COVID relief. And Abbott in, I think it was an Ohio plant. There's actually one right down the road from me as well. But they got contaminated and it killed some infants. And so they were granted a PPP loan to get it cleaned up and, sanitized so it could start producing, because a lot of infants depend on baby formula because they can't drink milk. And they used that money to buy back their stock.
Yeah.
So Biden had to use the military and like C5 Galaxies, and he used discretionary spending to buy formula from Great Britain, the United Kingdom, and he used the military to transport it and distribute it through the country to get that baby formula to those hungry infants. So that was our response to the deregulation of these companies that produce very important food for children. And another one, a really famous one, was a guy who signed a memo about not fixing like a $2 part on a car. And because the expense of fixing all those little $2 parts on the car would have cost more money than paying the potential victims of the fires. The car was the Ford Pinto, known as the exploding car.
I was going to say, you're talking about the Ford Pinto. I knew what you were talking about, yeah.
The name on that, the wannabe president that signed that memo with Ford was Lee Iacocca. It ruined his chances of being president when people realized a $2 part, he skimped on a $2 part. Now, there was some labor, to fix it. It was a switch in the taillights or something. Mm-hmm. Something simple. There was a cutoff switch.
Yeah.
But a lot of people
Pinto,
regulations save lives. That's what we need to be saying.
Yeah, just plain and simple. It saves lives, and that is one of them. That's a very good example. Howard, your thoughts, my brother?
Man, I've been screaming about this for years. Jim, I'll give you just one other example. And yes, regulations save lives, and regulations were put. The thing that bothers me is that when they talk about it just generically, like regulations, like
that's it. Yeah, that's what pisses me off. Yeah,
kind of came, out of nowhere. And their only purpose is to hinder the progress of business or the progress of people, And very seldom do I hear, when they talk about repealing these things, any discussion about why they were put in place in the first place. Yeah. That really frustrates me. But anyway, really quickly, when Trump was running the first time around, there was a guy named Jim Justice. I don't know if you remember Jim Justice. You should know the name, though, because he's one of your U.S. senators now. Yeah. Jim Justice owns a big coal mine and other things from West Virginia. He's from West Virginia, and he gave a lot of money to the Trump campaign, and he did a lot of talking for Trump and speaking for Trump in West Virginia. Well, in 2017, in February, about a month after he first got his first inauguration, Trump repealed what's called the Steam Protection Rule, which is these coal plants. They have a lot of waste, a lot of dirty waste, as you can imagine. Yep. And this rule said that you had to dump that stuff at least 100 feet. It's not even a lot, but at least 100 feet away from a local stream, which seems like a short distance to me, but that was the rule. Yeah. And that, I guess it was working. Well, anyway, Trump repealed that so that you could just dump stuff, just like those, what is it called, in the Lorax. It's like all these things I see growing up as a kid. We used to have all these anti-pollution cartoons we'd watch. Yeah. And I'm like, did you guys learn nothing from this? I mean, it's like ridiculous. So anyway, but that was, so soon after that, Jim Justice, years after that, he's the guy who took Manchin's place. Okay. He's our senator from West Virginia now. So Trump's corruption was in full effect from the beginning. But, I just use that example because I remember reading that and saying, this is what I was telling people who would listen to me at the time. This is what I was talking about. That's what the Trump administration is going to do. And who's going to suffer? Not Jim Justice, not the Trumps, not the elite class. It's going to be the people in West Virginia who are already have their health care now is gone. Their teeth are gone, and now they're drinking this dirty water. Yep. And it's just not it's just not a good thing. And it bothers me that politicians have allowed the word regulation to be so stigmatized. Yeah. Because it really is, that's their purpose. Yeah. That's what the legislature is there to do, to enact laws to protect American citizens. Exactly. That's what their job is.
Exactly.
And so that's what I have.
Yeah, I mean, everything you just said is my biggest thing. I'm like, you people are idiots. Look, what do we got? We got Taylor Farms, cyclospora outbreak, food safety oversight, measles. Like you said, you got them trying to cut regulations that are under OSHA, FDA, USDA, EPA, CDC. Now he's trying to put AI data centers in places where they don't need to be in all these red states. this whole thing when it comes to regulations and how people just get in that, it goes back once again to what they're being fed, what they're receiving, what they're hearing. And you're right, regulations is not a bad thing. It keeps us alive, but we're just not getting it. And hopefully, maybe people keep checking us out, they'll get it. Anyway, everybody, we're going to come right back with the end of the show, my closing statements, and we're going to be out of here.
As we come to the end of the show, we end the show like we always do. It's now time for Couch's Corner.
Tonight, we've talked about political divisions, constitutional rights, media influence, and government regulation. Now, at first glance, those sound like four completely different conversations, but they're really asking the same question. Who do we trust? Do we trust political parties or voters? Do we trust government or politics? Do we trust media or evidence? Do we trust regulations or simply hope corporations always do the right thing? Each week, we ask questions that don't have easy answers because democracy isn't strengthened by people who always agree. It's strengthened by people willing to think, listen, and challenge their own assumptions. That's what we are trying to do here every week. Anyway, everybody, that's our chat for today. That's my super duper co-host, Howard. That's my man up in New Jersey, Stu, rocking and rolling. And out in Arizona, coming up in 3 weeks, everybody, my man Russ out in Arizona. We got a new show coming on Wednesdays where we're talking about the football season. Anyway, we're about to be out. Everybody have a great weekend. Keep rocking and rolling. And we'll talk to you soon. Peace. Couch out.